Good morning. I just finished my Tuesday morning class here at Love Evolution Studio in Bel Air. And something I taught this weekend and shared this weekend that I just wanted to share here on my channel um, about depression and about sort of a mindful navigation of depression. Um, for the last, very often, pretty much anytime I teach, I share about, if there's anybody new in class, I share about my background. The grounds from which I started meditating um, it weren't yoga, and it wasn't, I just didn't come from any sort of background related to anything meditative or mindful. When I started meditating, it was literally the day after my father's funeral, after he passed away from a long battle with depression. And I myself was mired in social anxiety and depression and self-medication. This is where I started. And I usually add during this little bit of sharing that meditation, mindfulness have not only helped me to cope from these experiences of depression and anxiety, but they've helped me to heal from depression and anxiety. And I'd say by and large, my experience of anxiety, in particular social anxiety, has all but healed. I used to be anxious in just about every social situation. I didn't start singing out loud for anyone at all to hear until I was 27, even though I wanted to be a singer-songwriter since high school. In terms of just everyday social situations, I sought to avoid everything from family gatherings to events to gatherings or to hanging out with friends that maybe I didn't know that well. My anxiety was so great, and early on I wasn't even aware that I was anxious. I really just thought it was, I would just place judgment with these people aren't cool, or I don't feel like doing that, or this person's an a-hole, or whatever the case may be. That's kind of what I would tell myself, but deep down inside I was anxious, I was afraid. And so as I became more and more mindful of that experience, it started to change. As I practiced more and more meditation, those experiences started to not become something I sought to avoid, and actually over time, quite the opposite. I sought out those experiences. I'm now a very open and social person. Even though I probably describe myself as an introvert, I love being in the company of people, and I find it fulfilling in the same way that I've always seen my wife, Megan, who is an extreme extrovert. She's always enjoyed social situations. Now I'm right there with her, and I enjoy it. So I think meditation and mindfulness have helped me to overcome my experiences of anxiety. But depression is a little bit slower on that curve. My experience with depression for a long time was similar to anxiety, where I wasn't really aware of it. I was just bearing it through self-medication and through these various stories I'd tell myself. As I became more and more aware of it, I saw that it would happen for me periodically, and it would maybe last or hang around for 2-4 weeks, maybe a month or two, and it was sort of like a walking pneumonia. Like I would have walking depression. It wouldn't totally put me in my bed, and I mean, there's once or twice in my life where I haven't, particularly in college, where I didn't get out of bed for weeks on end because I was so depressed. But in my adult years, I've found ways to sort of self-medicate, to navigate through it. The more and more I meditated and became mindful, the depression limited me even less, and the duration that I would experience limited me even less. And this comes through simply being aware that you are experiencing depression. Rather than being depressed and unconscious of it, you make these decisions that you're not even really, you're not at the wheel. The depression is what's telling you to withdraw from people. The depression is what's telling you to have these negative thoughts and about yourself or about your life experience. But the more aware and mindful you are, the more you see how the depression is what's telling you to withdraw, or to not go to this social event, or to not exercise, or to not seek out this opportunity, or to skip this meeting, or whatever the case may be. So just being aware changes the game completely. And you start to refine that awareness until you're aware the moment depressive energy strikes, and you start to become aware of those triggers, those things that enact the depression and kind of enliven the depression within you. And when you're aware, sort of at that point of contact, then you diminish the momentum that the depression can even gain in your unconsciousness, because you're fully conscious, you're fully aware. And so most people have specific triggers. For my father, his depressive trigger was money. It was finances. He'd be worried and consumed with money. If his business was up, he felt up. If his business was down, he felt down. For me, it's always been the music business. Not my music, not the creation of music, not my songwriting, but my place in the music industry and the place of myself and my band, The Big Infinite, in the music business. As our career was up, I felt up. As our career was down, I felt down. And this would even really just follow specific emails. If I got a good email, I started to feel real good. If I got a bad email, I started to feel real bad. And if something particularly bad happened, or maybe I had my hopes high and I didn't achieve that opportunity, it would really send me into the throes of depression. But more and more I'm mindful of that. And so I'd say, honestly, as I was telling my class this past weekend, over the last 4 to 8 weeks, I've had a tremendous amount of depressive energy in my experience. And in large part, this happened, my band and I released a song. I had certain expectations for it locally, regionally. Those expectations were met and exceeded. The song was received with a lot of love. I had some hopes within the industry, and those hopes were not met, and immediately my depressive emotions started to rise up. My brain started to really tell me a lot of stories, but I was mindful of those stories immediately, and I made sure, being aware of those emotions and those thoughts, I made sure to maintain my exercise regimen. I made sure to do my cold showers that I do every morning. I made sure to maintain my meditations and everything in my daily life. And those various things, whether it's exercise, whether it's my classes, my students, my family, whatever it is, those serve as anchors to kind of keep me at my baseline or above my baseline, rather than really sinking into a deeper and deeper depression. And as you do that, as you're mindful, as you're aware, the depression doesn't gain the momentum that it used to. And so it doesn't control or dictate my life, simply through being aware of it. Meditation and mindfulness are absolute game changers, teaching you and helping you to not only cope with depression, with anxiety, but helping you to heal from those experiences. So the next time you find yourself mired in a depression, practice some mindfulness. Be aware of it. Start to really look into and experience the quality of thoughts that are going through your headspace, the emotions that you're feeling. Really begin maybe perhaps a practice of daily meditation, up your exercise regimen, those kind of things to release good biochemicals in the brain, in the body, sensations in the body. Your reality, your perception of reality is primarily thoughts, emotions, and sensations within the body and how those interplay. And so the more you're aware of that, the more you start to realize a self-worth that comes from within, not without. And so whether it's finances, whether it's the music business, whether it's relationships, whether it's your body image, your sense of self, your self-worth begins to come from within rather than being dependent on anything external. You start to experience this grounded sensation, this power, and this center and this self-worth that begins in your heart, begins in yourself, and what happens external to you becomes more and more irrelevant. And sort of ironically, as you feel that way, as your self-worth begins within, the outer world just starts to change in this very beautiful, serendipitous kind of way. So the next time you experience depression, maybe perhaps have a mindful depression.